Good morning, students. This lecture is meant for BA Part 1 English Literature students, and this lecture is in continuation to the earlier lecture which was held on A Song for Saint Cecilia's Day, written by John Dryden. So, today I'll be discussing the literary devices which are used in the particular poem. Now, speaker or narrator's point of view. Now, if you see, it's written from a third person, omniscient perspective, the pious, laudatory, and unnamed speaker of a song for Saint Cecilia's Day. Speaker is not named. It's written in 1687. It commemorates, it celebrates Saint Cecilia, the patroness of music, and celebrates the power of music. So, see the literary devices. First of all, I will just read out, we will be discussing various metaphors, similes, onomatopoeia, irony. So, various literary devices which are used in this lyric. Okay, it's a long lyric. Now, form and meter, first of all. There are 7 stanzas with grand chorus, mixed meter, that is iambic pentameter, tetrameter, trimeter, mixed rhyme schemes, that is AA, BB, AB, AB, A, double B, A. Okay. Now, metaphors and similes. So, as we have already in detail discussed all the 7 stanzas and interpretation of it, I have given to you. Now, see in stanza first, if you recollect, the creation of matter is compared to a master in a military unit in which the elements, cold and hot, and moist and dry, like troops, are assembled to their stations. Music throughout the poem is compared to speech acts, to military commands in stanza 1 and 3, complaints and elegies in stanza 4, and to proclamations in stanza 5. Musical notes are also compared to wind creatures in stanza 6. So these are all similes. Notes inspiring holy love, notes that wing their heavenly ways to mend the coys above. So, this metaphor illustrates the sacred, empowering, and elevating qualities of music. Then you see further, from harmony, from heavenly harmony. So, that was the first line. This universal frame began. So, you can feel here the alliteration of the alphabet H, consonants of the R, and could not heave her head, alliteration of the H, that spoke so sweetly and so well. Sibilance, alliteration of the S, loud clangor, consonants of the I, the double, double, double beat, okay, D, 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 alliteration of the D, through repetition of the same word. Then further you go of the thundering drum, assonance of the short U. Charge, charge is the alliteration of the CH through charge, through repetition of the same word. It's too late to retreat, consonants of the T. Fury, frenetic indignation, alliteration of F. So the soft complaining flute, and further the wobbling lute, consonants of the I. Now see, come to irony, okay? There is an element of situational irony in the fact that music has so much power in this poem. It quite literally shakes the heavens, and even an angel mistakes earth for heaven. Music sure can move the hearts of people, yet for it to quote, untune the sky, in this poem seems to surpass our expectations of what an art form can do. Yandra of the poem is lyrical poetry. It's full of rhythms, okay? The setting is spatial setting, unspecified. Even the speaker, we cannot know who is the speaker. Temporal setting, Saint Cecilia's Day celebration. Then tone is, laudatory tone, tone of celebration, celebratory. Now protagonist and antagonist, Saint Cecilia Saint Cecilia is the protagonist, not challenged by an antagonist. Now, major conflict. If we discuss about the major conflict, though the poem does not feature a rivalry between a protagonist and antagonist, it addresses the conflict or dichotomy between the human, pagan, and the divine, Christian. In stanza 7, for instance, there is a contrast drawn between the Greek mythological figure Orpheus and the Christian saint Cecilia. In the same stanza, an angel mistakes earth for heaven. The earthly world and heavenly world are compared and contrasted throughout. Now, see the climax. The poem reaches its most intense moment as well as its resolution in the grand chorus. This concluding stanza is where the music shakes the heavens, the spheres began to move, and the scope of the poem extends beyond earthly festivities and into outer space. The stanza also marks an unforeseen radical change in the world order in which the dead shall live and the living die. This is the final state to which we arrive when music untunes the universe. As creation takes place with heavenly music, in the same way, when music is heard from the sky, it comes to an end. Foreshadowing, the stanza first establishes a framework with which to interpret the cosmological events to occur throughout the poem. The universal frame begins from heavenly harmony. This premise sets up an expectation that the poem will describe the workings of the universe both theologically and orally. In other words, the first stanza prepares us for the references to music and religion throughout, a song for Saint Cecilia's day. Now see the allusions. There are a number of allusions in this poem. From harmony, the first line, from heavenly harmony, this universal frame began. The spheres began to move. References to Musica Universalis, also called music of the spheres. It's a theory developed by the Greek philosopher Pythagoras, arguing that the universe consists of celestial bodies whose movements produce inaudible yet harmonious music. Okay? So, Pythagoras theory you find here. Then nature underneath a heap of jarring atoms lay. It's a reference to the Greek. This is another allusion. Reference to the Greek philosopher Epicurus and his theory that the world is made up of indivisible atoms. Jarring atoms, okay? Indivisible atoms. Cold and hot and moist and dry. Okay, these paradoxical images, a reference to the atomic theory of Greek philosopher Aristotle, who argued that there are four sensible qualities to matter: hot, cold, wet, and dry. Then come further, there is a biblical allusion. Okay, when Jubal struck the corded shell, this quote, a biblical allusion to Jubal, a character in the book of Genesis. Jubal was a descendant of Cain, the first musician in the Bible, and the ancestor of all who played the harp and flute. Then you see there is further reference to Orpheus. Orpheus could lead the savage race, an allusion to the Greek mythological figure Orpheus, who was a poet and musician, was able to use his music to charm people, animals, and inanimate objects. As you have heard here, you can also connect it to the great musician Tansen. If somebody heard his music, it was said that trees were uprooted, everybody started following him. In the same way, Orpheus' music. But Saint Cecilia's music certainly stands higher, because two angels, they hear the music of Cecilia and they come here down on earth, mistaking earth to be heaven. So, but now see, but bright Cecilia's raised the wonder higher when to her organ vocal breath was given. This is a reference to Saint Cecilia, a Catholic martyr and organ player from the 2nd or 3rd century AD, commemorated as the patroness of musicians. Now see, Immense use of figures of speech, metonymy and synecdoche. The poem uses synecdochic language when it refers to body parts could not heave her head on their faces or speech acts what human voice can reach, isolated from the characters from which they come. Now, see the personification. Stanza 1 compares nature to a person who has been fast asleep and is awakened by the sound of music. Upon hearing tuneful voice from high, nature cold and hot and moist and dry rises to consciousness and obeys the power of music. So the whole universe, it is being personified. Now, the musical instruments in this poem are compared to human beings that both express and inspire certain emotions. Jubal's shell speaks so sweetly and so well. The trumpet and drum incite anger, the flute complains, and the lute whispers about melancholy. So these are all personifications about melancholy and romantic tragedy. The violins proclaim their jealousy and fury. The organ given the vocal breath of Saint Cecilia's praise, the holy and divine. The entire poem is a hyperbolic statement about the power of music. So, use of hyperbole, okay? The festivities of Saint Cecilia's Day not only inspire passion in the human heart, but also invoke divine and celestial bodies and even stir up the entire universe. Specific moments of hyperbole include expressions like, "What passions cannot music raise and quell, or music shall untune the sky." Now, lastly, we will discuss about onomatopoeia. Although the poem does not feature onomatopoeia proper, it employs words whose sounds imitate those of the instruments. For instance, the alliteration of the D sound in the lines "the double, double, double beat" of the thundering drum mimics the actual sound of the drum. So, students, here I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, students. अरे मैं तो लेक्चर में थी सर कौन ये मैं तो बताती हूँ सर कहाँ से आ गई अरे बेटा ऐसे मत डिस्टेंसिंग करके खड़े हो है ना हाँ आपको फिर आप ही के लिए वो है ना प्रॉब्लमेटिक किसी को प्रॉब्लम हो जाए थोड़ा दूर दूर खड़े होके फॉर्म भरो है ना एनएसएस का कर रहे हो गर्ल्स रूम भी तो है वहाँ बैठ के भर देते पर रूम भी सारे गंदे बने